Welcome back to Spoiler Free Wrestling, everyone. And the G1 Climax 29 is in the books. And it was a very eventful last day of the tournament this year, taking place in the Nippon Budokan yesterday. And we're going to start things off with arguably the biggest angle to take place on the show. Bigger than the finals of the G1 Climax. The most talked about moment coming out of the final night of the G1 Climax tournament this year had nothing to do, well, very little to do with the tournament itself. A six-man tag match featuring Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga, and Tongaloa going up against Tomohiro Ishii and Yoshihashi and their tag team partner, Kenta. Now, Kenta never tagged into this match. And when one of his teammates, can't remember if it was Ishii or Yoshihashi, went to go tag him in, Kenta jumps off the apron, refuses the tag. He would later go into the ring, join Bullet Club, beat down Ishii and Yoshihashi, beat down the LA Dojo guys, and then as if like so much happened in this one segment in such a short period of time. Like, all of what happened could have been spaced out over like a 6-month period. But it all happened right at once. And so Shibata comes out to confront Kenta. And remember, it was Shibata who announced that Kenta was going to be in the G1 this year. And Kenta had been training with Shibata and the recruits at the LA Dojo. So joining Bullet Club and turning his back on the LA Dojo, this was just not okay from Shibata. So Shibata comes out, confronts Kenta. So right there, you've got two big things already. You've got Kenta joining Bullet Club. That's a big thing right there. That's a big thing to happen right there. And then Shibata coming out to confront him, that's a big thing right there too. Because basically at this point, anytime Shibata shows up, it's a big deal. And so for him to come out and confront Kenta, that was a big deal. Then for him to get physically involved in the angle with Kenta, where he's dishing out the offense to Kenta, was a big deal. And then when Bullet Club beat up Shibata and ended the segment with Kenta sitting cross-legged on top of Shibata, that was a big deal. All of those big deals, which would have been big deals on their own without the other parts, took place in one kind of contained segment. But I thought coming out of it, the first thought I had when I saw Shibata get as physical as he did during the match is, oh my God, Shibata's coming back. Shibata's been cleared. That's why he's doing all this stuff. And Shibata's coming back. And I also even noticed, like, okay, well, and he kind of looks at, are the other wrestlers being cautious of his head? And it looked at one point like Tama had kind of shook his head at one point, but for the most part, it's not like he took anything too hardcore during the beatdown. But now it's being reported, however, that Shibata has not, there's been no change in his status that anyone is aware of. So there's no thoughts that this would be building towards a Shibata versus Kenta match. And that was my thought originally, was that that's where they're going. They're going to go Kenta, Shibata, maybe it'll be Tokyo Dome. Awesome. Amazing. What a huge angle to really kickstart Kenta's New Japan run. I mean, the G1 was obviously his first foray into New Japan Pro Wrestling, but now this huge angle where he's turned his back on the guy who basically endorsed him. Because Kenta coming back after a failed run in WWE, that's not something the fans of New Japan Pro Wrestling are just going to kind of let him get away with, And Shibata's a guy who left New Japan Pro Wrestling and went into MMA. And he wasn't as successful as he wanted to be in MMA as well. So Shibata knows a little thing about having to win back fans. And so it was Shibata that was sort of saying, all right, here's Kenta's in New Japan now. He's going to be in the G1. I've been training him. He's my guy. And then for Kenta to turn heel and turn his back on both Shibata and the LA Dojo guys, I think is a big deal. And you could argue that maybe Kenta needed this, that perhaps it's the best thing for him to join an all-the-way heel faction like Bullet Club or Suzuki-gun. That one of those two factions would be the best fit for him. And now with this angle with Shibata, you've got Kenta in the most talked about thing going on in New Japan Pro Wrestling right now. And I think that's big for his career, and it's definitely big for these next few years and months with New Japan Pro Wrestling for Kenta. Now, he does have a match announced. He was announced, they announced 3 championship, well, they announced the full card for Royal Quest, and Kenta will challenge Tomohiro Ishii for the Never Openweight Championship on that card. So Kenta now with a chance to win championship gold coming out of the G1 Climax. So let's just see here. Who did Kenta lose to? I mean, he lost to Okada. Okay, so he wasn't in the same bracket as Ishii. He did defeat Ibushi, who went on to win the G1. So that seems significant, that perhaps if Ibushi has to defend the briefcase, there's only 2 possible wrestlers he could defend it against that beat him in the G1. Those are Evil and Kenta. So it seems like we could get Kenta versus Kota Ibushi with the briefcase on the line. But also it's now been announced that on August 31st, which is not that far away. It's 18 days. So we got 2.5 weeks until the big event in London. And Kenta will challenge Tomohiro Ishii for the Never Openweight title. And I guess that's kind of significant since Kenta has spent so much of his career wrestling in junior heavyweight divisions. He did win the GHC Heavyweight Championship in Pro Wrestling Noah before leaving that organization for WWE, however. So, Kenta versus Tomohiro Ishii, Never Openweight Championship on the line August 31st in London. So, that was the big angle. That was the big angle that I think everybody is talking about the most, was Kenta joining Bullet Club, turning his back on Shibata and the LA Dojo, then Shibata coming out and confronting Kenta, then Shibata getting physical, and but from what we can tell, there are no plans for Shibata to do anything similar in the future. This was just as a way to get everybody hating on Kenta as much as possible. Then in the semi-main event, in the Nippon Budokan on the final night, we had the mega powers of New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi teaming up, which is something they started doing a little bit last year, the 2 longtime rivals. And they were going up with the 2 top talents of Suzuki-gun, Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr., and it would be Minoru Suzuki getting the pin on Kazuchika Okada after delivering a Gotch pile driver, then grabbing the mic and saying, basically, sucks to be you, you just lost to somebody who wasn't even in the G1. And this was something when the G1 lineups were announced, when they announced the blocks, and Minoru Suzuki wasn't in there. there was a bit of an uproar because to a lot of people, Minoru Suzuki is one of, if not their favorite wrestler. And for him not to be included in the G1 just seems so bizarre. Like there was no build up to it, right? Like when Yuji Nagata wrestled in his final G1 tournament, he announced, "This is my final G1 tournament." There was no announcement for Minoru Suzuki. It was just, "Oh, he's not in it this year." But then he got a measure of revenge then in this tag match. So he pins Okada while Zack Sabre Jr. has a guillotine choke locked in on Tanahashi. And this match here set up 2 matches which will take place at Royal Quest in London. The first being Zack Sabre Jr. defending the British Heavyweight Championship against Hiroshi Tanahashi. And the second being Minoru Suzuki challenging Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Alright, so up on your screen now, this is all 7 matches which have ever taken place between Kazuchika Okada and Minoru Suzuki. Again, they will meet for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, the 3rd time they have done so, on August 31st in London. So the first time they met, it was a singles match in 2013 at the New Beginning, and Suzuki defeated Okada. They would then meet at Wrestling Dontagu just a few months later, with Kazuchika Okada successfully defending the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Minoru Suzuki. The next year, they would meet in the round robin of the G1 Climax tournament, with Okada pulling out the win there. They would then not meet again for about another 2.5 years later, when they would meet at the New Beginning in Sapporo in 2017, with Okada again defending the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Suzuki. They would then meet again in the round robin of the G1 in 2017. They would go to a time limit draw that year. Then at Minoru Suzuki's 30th anniversary outdoor pirate festival, they would again wrestle to another time limit draw. And then last summer, in what was hopefully not Minoru Suzuki's last G1, they met in the round robin, with Kazuchika Okada pulling out the victory there. So Minoru Suzuki has just the one victory over Kazuchika Okada, which came back in 2013. Kazuchika Okada has 4 victories over Minoru Suzuki, and they've gone to a time limit draw twice. All right. Okay, now up on your screen is all 6 singles matches which has ever taken place between Zack Sabre Jr. and Hiroshi Tanahashi. So the first one was in the G1 in 2017. That was on the opening night of the tournament. Zack Sabre Jr. picked up the surprise victory there. Tanahashi would then defend the IWGP Intercontinental Championship against Zack Sabre Jr. successfully just a few months later at a Destruction event in Hiroshima. Then in the finals of the New Japan Cup in 2018, Zack Sabre Jr. pulled off the upset, defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi to win the whole tournament. They would then meet in the quarterfinals of the New Japan Cup the next year, when Hiroshi Tanahashi would gain a measure of revenge and would eliminate Zack Sabre Jr. So at that point, it was 2 wins, 2 losses. They then met for the undisputed British heavyweight title the G1 Supercard in Madison Square Garden this year, with Zack Sabre Jr. pulling out the victory. And then in the G1 this summer, Hiroshi Tanahashi pulled off the victory there. So Zack Sabre Jr. and Hiroshi Tanahashi, they'll be going into their Royal Quest show in London, having each beaten the other one 3 times. So their head-to-head set is tied at 3 as they go into Royal Quest. Then, in the final match of the G1 Climax 29, it was Kota Ibushi defeating Jay White to win his first ever G1 Climax tournament. And the question now becomes, can Kota Ibushi go to the Tokyo Dome and win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship? Beating Okada on the final night of the round robin in the G1 is different from beating Okada in the main event of the Tokyo Dome. If you remember, it took Okada a very long time to be able to defeat Tanahashi in the Tokyo Dome. So just because Ibushi beat Okada in the round robin portion of the tournament, after they've each gone through 5 weeks of grueling matches. And remember, Ibushi went into this tournament with that horrible ankle injury. And he tweeted out these photos of his ankle. But Kota Ibushi now has a chance to go on and main event the Tokyo Dome. And I say he has a chance because he'll likely have to defend the briefcase, as you know, recent winners of the G1 have had to do. Now, likely Ibushi, there are 2 possible wrestlers that Ibushi is likely to have to defend the briefcase against. Maybe it would just be one of them. Maybe it would be both of them. But he lost 2 matches in the round robin. The first was on the first night of the tournament in Dallas. Kota Ibushi lost to Kenta. And that was in the semi-final, like the semi-main event. So like the second, the semi-final. So that's a high-profile loss for Kota Ibushi. It seems like he might have to get his win back over Kenta before moving on to the Tokyo Dome. Otherwise, there's just that loss to Kenta kind of hanging in the background of Kota Ibushi. And his other loss was to Evil. And so one would expect maybe we're going to see Kota Ibushi wrestle Evil, maybe wrestle Kenta between now and the Tokyo Dome. Another notable thing coming out of Kota Ibushi's win of the G1 this year is the press conference that he did with New Japan Pro Wrestling after. And he brought up something that he wants to do at the Tokyo Dome show this year. He wants to headline both nights. And this is something that I'm surprised didn't get brought up much during the G1. And I know I never really thought about it while I was watching the G1. Wrestle Kingdom's 2 nights this year. It's January 4th and January 5th in the Tokyo Dome. So you've got the G1 winner versus the IWGP Heavyweight Champion main eventing one show. What main events the other show? Well, Ibushi has an idea. He wants to challenge for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship on January 4th, and then challenge for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship on January 5th. And this is the statement that he made to NJPW1972.com. And he said, and of course these are translated from Japanese, so sometimes it's not overly clear, but Ibushi said, "Of course I can accept and will use this contract, but I have one proposal. We have events in the Tokyo Dome on January 4th and 5th, but I still have an attachment to the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. How about if I win the Heavyweight Championship on January 4th and then challenge for the Intercontinental Championship on January 5th, whoever it may be? I will, of course, defend this right to challenge against Kenta and Evil, who beat me during the G1. That's it. That's my suggestion." So Ibushi wants to defend his briefcase against Kenta, defend the briefcase against Evil, win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Okada on January 4th, and then win the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, currently held by Naito. Boy, have those two ever had some matches against each other. So that's what Kota Ibushi is saying. He wants to go on and main event both nights of the Tokyo Dome. And it does beg the question, what do you do about that second night in the Tokyo Dome? What's the main event for that night? It's been so established now that the main event of the Tokyo Dome is the winner of the G1 versus the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. But now there's two main events. There's a main event on the 4th. There's a main event on the 5th. What do you do about the second main event? Is it the IWGP Intercontinental Championship that's headlining that show? I guess it is, unless you want to do the IWGP Heavyweight Championship 2 nights in a row. Which doesn't, I mean, that's not what they would do traditionally, but traditionally they've never had 2 nights in the Tokyo Dome booked in a row. So there's a lot of unanswered questions that we have as we kind of embark on this period from August to January. But we did get lineups announced for the Super J Cup. We got the brackets. And we've also got we've got 8 matches, which is, I'm assuming, the full show, if not close to the full show, for the Copper Box Arena in London on August 31st. So let's take a look now. Up on your screen is the brackets for the Super J Cup. And that tournament will begin in just 9 days from now in the Temple Theater in Washington. Is that? That's not in Washington, D.C. That's in Washington State. I've got the Temple Theater in Washington State, I believe. And so they start things off with a non-tournament match featuring Jushin Thunder Liger. He'll team with Carl Fredericks to go up against Ren Narita. And the Shooter, Shota Umino, Jon Moxley's tag team partner at the Death Riders. I really enjoyed Shota Umino's contribution to the G1 this year, to Jon Moxley's G1 tournament. So here are the first round matches now that will take place on August 22nd for the Super J Cup. We got Rocky Romero going up against Soberano Jr., Clark Connors versus TJP, Caristico versus Bushi, Taguchi versus Jonathan Gresham. Good to see Jonathan Gresham getting back in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Enjoyed his Best of the Super Juniors. I like his style, too. Like, he's got a very submission-based style. Had a match there with Zack Sabre Jr. in Ring of Honor, which was excellent. So Taguchi versus Jonathan Gresham. Then on the other side, you got Robbie Eagles versus El Phantasmo. And so that's a little Bullet Club versus guy who defected from the Bullet Club match. Yo versus Dragon Lee, Sho versus Taiji Ishimori, and then in the main event that night, Will Ospreay versus the Amazing Red. So that will be Ospreay versus Amazing Red. Will likely be a match that those in attendance talk fairly highly of. Then the next night, they got the 4 quarterfinal matches, and Jushin Liger will also be in a singles match. Then the final night of the tournament on the 25th in the Walter Pyramid, where they've done a bunch of shows in the past. That show will have the tournament semifinals and the finals. Then on August 31st in the Copper Box Arena, here's the lineup for that show. Ren Narita, Shota Umino, and Taguchi going up against Roppongi 3K, Sho, Yo, and Rocky Romero. Juice Robinson and Kota Ibushi will team up to go against Hikuleo and Yujiro Takahashi. Robbie Eagles and Will Ospreay will go up against Bullet Club's El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori. Sonata and Tetsuya Naito from LIJ will go up against Bullet Club's Chase Owens and Jay White. And then we go into the big matches, 4 championship matches taking place August 31st in London. The Gorillas of Destiny will take on the winners of a tournament currently going on in England. Then we've got Tomohiro Ishii going up against Kenta for the Never Openweight Championship, as Kenta will... that might be his first official match as a member of Bullet Club. He doesn't have another one scheduled. Then for the British Heavyweight Championship in the semifinal main event, Zack Sabre Jr. will defend against Hiroshi Tanahashi. And then the main event, Kazuchika Okada will look to defend his IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Minoru Suzuki. Also, in New Japan Pro Wrestling news today, we had a bit of an injury update from Hiromu Takahashi that was given by Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio. He noted he's been told by people in New Japan Pro Wrestling that Takahashi's return is coming later in this summer. Hopefully later in the summer. But Takahashi on his way back, and that is fantastic news for many of the New Japan Pro Wrestling fans who have missed him being a part of the junior heavyweight division over these last 13 months. And that's where we're going to end this video for today. I hope you all enjoyed the G1 Climax 29. It was a great tournament. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, also to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. That helps more people find this channel. Thanks very much, everybody. I'm the Guy from Spoiler Free Wrestling.